So, Mark, did you see those Dead and Company posters for their residency? They just finished out at the Sphere. They're done for the summer, and some of the visuals have been incredible, but those posters stand out.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. I love posters. I think that's one of the things I miss about, growing up in the 90s and all that is the posters. And I know they go back further than that, but do you remember going to like Blockbuster and seeing a movie poster and waiting and trying to like ask them to hold on to it so you could get it when they take it down? All that culture is lost on my kids.
Yeah, the good old days of the video store, so much that goes with that, and we lost it. Of course, there's one Blockbuster left in the world, so there's still hope.
Yeah, and every Blockbuster you walked into all had that same smell of like BO, popcorn, and desperation.
This last week, DEF CON was in town. That's the big hacker convention, and they've been in town a lot over the years. They have their convention here every year, but there was a lot of controversy with Resorts World because they sort of targeted these people and looked in their rooms and searched their rooms, searched their things. We even saw a leaked memo on exactly how they were going about it. So it's a strange thing because since 2017, casinos and hotels have been going into rooms for safety because of shootings and things like that. They weren't looking for guns or weapons. They're looking for technology. And there's a big blowback. When I was looking back, I saw stories from Caesars from 2018 doing something similar. So I don't know if it's only Resorts World, but they were more aggressive than anybody before.
One thing I wouldn't do if I, was worried about people hacking me and stuff, especially after what we saw what happened with MGM, is go into people's rooms and piss off hackers. I don't know that this is going to end well. Like, why would you target this group of people that are here for a hacker convention or just, cybersecurity type of stuff? They're not all hackers. And then you go in there and just do it the rudest way possible without any warning or anything like that. It's just kind of crazy.
It raises a larger issue here about, security in your room. And I've had several hotel rooms gone into while I wasn't there with a do not disturb sign on in the last few years in Las Vegas. And we sort of know it's part of the thing. But if you're selling a room block to DEF CON, to a hacker convention, why not disclose this up front when they're booking? Let them know you're going to do it instead of just going in. And then some of the devices they were looking for were just routers. I saw some of the pictures and it was just normal technology stuff, USB thumb drives. There were some other sort of hacker stuff, but you're having security guards try to find technology, search people's things. They have no idea what's going on. If you're so worried about it, just don't sell the rooms to the people.
Yeah, I think if you're upfront about this, it's a whole different experience. But then maybe they try to hide it. This is their thinking that, they can, find ways to get around it or something like that. But yeah, if you're that worried about it, just don't have them come or don't offer a discounted rate. Like, you're trying to get both ends of this. Like, oh yeah, come here, fill up our hotel, and then we're going to treat you like dirt and try to check. And then you have these people checking for things. They don't know what they're looking for. And if they find it, they don't know if they got the right thing or if there's anything on it. It could just be pictures, from their camera or whatever. So it's just so weird. I don't know what the thinking is here. It's a bad look, and you're pissing off a community that you probably don't want to.
I noticed a few people who stayed at Fontainebleau said that it was a completely different experience there, much better. I wonder if something happened in previous conventions with Resorts World. Why are they so paranoid? That's the big question. This story has been nuts, but it's blown up all over social media. People really upset. And like you said, you shouldn't really poke a hornet's nest.
I don't know how this plays out, but they definitely won't be staying there in the future.
That said, if you're on the strip during these conventions, not a bad idea to turn off your Bluetooth, your Wi-Fi, all that good stuff.
Get an RFID blocking wallet or whatever.
Now, see, we're turning into Resorts World here. We're getting all paranoid. So on to Caesars, and they have their Pro Pick'em contest this year. And I saw this tweet kind of criticizing them because they advertise it as a $1.21 million cash pool. But $1 million of that is a prize that you only win if you get 215 of the games right. Now, I looked it up, 272 games in the season. So, what is that, 70-ish% correct? Which somebody said is very long odds. I feel like it's not that long of odds, but is this disingenuous? Should they make it clearer to people that all of this money is probably not being given away?
Yeah, I think that definitely should be clearer. I think that's what we see with the Circa one, is that it's like an actual pool that is divvied up at the end. Casinos keep some of the money, I'm sure, for costs and everything. But if you're doing this, it's more like a lottery almost. Like, you could win this, but we're going to keep the $1 million. What's first prize? I think it's like $20,000, which is a joke. I know it's only $25 to get in and all that. So it is kind of like a fun long shot. But $20,000? Do you not expect anybody to come out for this?
Yeah, the prizes are so low, and I think that's the real issue here. Why you're putting $1 million headline and then really low prizes, $20,000. It's not cool. Is it illegal? Some people were saying. I don't think so. I mean, it is pretty clear if you read the flyer how it works. It's not like they didn't put all the rules on there and you can see what you need and all of that. So people like to complain, but I think the moral of the story is this is just a crappy contest. There's better ones in town.
They're making it seem like it's a little bit like Circa's deal, but on a lower scale, and it's nothing like that. And you get to thinking like, oh, it's straight up, it's not against the spread, so that gives you a little bit better odds of picking the winners, makes it a little bit easier, but still 70% is tough. The NFL, every week somebody wins that should never win, and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I don't know that anybody gets there, even if they have 5 different entries or 100 different entries and all that. I don't know that you can play this game and win the $1 million. So it seems long odds, longer than like a slot machine, and all kinds of craziness, but we'll see how it plays out.
Staying at Caesars and Caesars Palace specifically, and our favorite Guy Fieri, he has his Chicken Guy restaurant there, and I came across this TikTok where this guy just lit into him saying he got 2 chicken sandwiches and 2 waters for $70. Now, he didn't quite do that if you look at the prices. He must have got sides and maybe bottled water or something. But the prices at Caesars Palace Food Court are pretty ridiculous. And I think that's sort of wider in Vegas. But what was interesting, and people can watch this guy just goes way off on Fieri and he cusses him out and says all kinds of terrible things about him. But you went and looked at the prices of the Chicken Guy restaurant at Disney Springs, which you would think would be comparable. And the Vegas prices are almost double.
Yeah, for the sandwiches. And I saw that in the comments of the TikTok was like, yeah, Disney Springs are way cheaper and it's the cheapest thing in Disney Springs. We both know Disney Springs pretty well that it's not cheap in there. Like, I'm sure the rents are pretty high. Usually the restaurants are on the expensive side. And then you're like, okay, so they should be somewhat in the realm. But the sandwiches are half price compared to Vegas, which Disney is like the next most expensive thing you can think of. I know it's not in the park, but still, it's kind of crazy and shocking. And it just goes to show that people are willing to charge whatever they want in Vegas, even if they have other restaurants. And the markup is huge, and it's getting a bit out of control. It's kind of crazy.
And most likely, the location in Vegas is owned by Caesars, and they're franchising it, so it's the Caesars charging whatever they want. I'm not sure about the Orlando location. But what are the chances that people see all of this commentary and then they just raise the prices in Orlando? That'd be my guess.
Yeah, just like what was the Vegas restaurant that came out and then a day later raised all the prices like $2 right after opening? Like, oh, those were our New York prices. We need to get them up to Vegas prices.
Yeah, it's sad to know that Vegas prices seem to be the highest now in the country in some areas for food.
Yeah, he said in the comments, he said the waters were $12, the bottled waters. I saw online it was like $8, but a bottle of 20-ounce Coke is like $6. When did we get to this? And this isn't all a Vegas thing, but it happens a lot more in Vegas. When did we get to water being more expensive than everything else? It's the cheapest thing to buy. You can buy a whole case of it for like $3 a lot of times. I know not Aquafina maybe, but what is this deal with charging $8, $10, $12 for a bottle of water?
It's nuts. And I wonder at Caesars, I haven't tried this there, but I wonder if you can get ice water there for free. Or there are some places in Vegas that won't give you ice water and will try to force you to buy bottled water. So maybe that is the case. But if I have to do ice water from the tap or $8 bottled water, I'm going ice water. When will it stop? I've sort of defended and just saying I try to be price agnostic when I'm on the strip so I don't get all worked up like this guy did. But now, I don't know, this sort of opened my eyes to be just how ridiculous it really is.
Yeah, it's getting out of hand, but the water thing, it's like you need it to live. It doesn't really cost that much. You're charging astronomical prices for it. That's the one that really upsets me.
So more bad news on pricing, Mark. One of the few off-strip buffets, the AYCE buffet at Palms, just significantly raised their prices. And this is just proof that, and we'll talk a little bit later about loss leaders and how much casinos lose on buffets, but their prices went up significantly. So for example, before it was $32.99 for brunch, going up to $42.99. Dinner from $36.99 to $46.99. Their lobster dinner went up from $64.99 to $79.99. Other increases too, just crazy prices for an off-strip buffet. But this is just proof they're not losing money on this.
Yeah, I think this is about, making it a profitable entity. And I get that to some respect, but this just goes to show like the thinking is different than back in the day. And we'll even talk about this in a bit, like you said, with South Point and how they look at it. And I think that's the way to this was the way to draw people in. And we've seen lines for things like this, like a good buffet, and then they usually go gamble. Maybe not everybody, but it was a way to get people in the door, especially if you're off the strip and you're not getting that kind of attraction. You need something to draw people. And if it's a loss leader, that's fine if you make money elsewhere. But it seems like they aren't willing to do that anymore, and they need to make money everywhere instead of just like looking at the overall picture, which is interesting, but it's sad to see. And there's just no value in buffets for the most part now.
I agree. I mean, in general, there should be value in a buffet, or it should be super, super high end. But yeah, I think that the proposition has changed a lot for people. This is a pretty good buffet, but yeah, not worth that money, I think. But let us know in the comments, do you think these prices are fair, or would you just skip it and go to a restaurant and get a normal meal? I think both fill you up. One maybe more than probably should. So keep that in mind. As a reminder, we have our Patreon. $5 a month gets you access to our weekly after show. Lots of fun, lots of going back and forth. Deeper talks into Vegas as well. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all the information. And thanks to everybody who supports us over there. So let's talk Michael Gaughan. We talked on a previous show, maybe a month or two ago, about an interview he did and his philosophy about not charging for parking and running his casino old school. But the Nevada Independent did a piece this week, kind of diving deeper into the property and how it is just a bit different, and highly suggest people read that. But there were a couple of interesting takeaways. Let's start with this. They lose $1.5 million a month on their 11 restaurants.
Yeah, and the buffet is probably 1.1 million of that. I mean, we've always said that restaurants are tough business, especially inside a casino when you're giving up comps and all this other stuff. And I don't know how they do the numbers, if they discount comps and that doesn't count towards the rate that they're getting, or if that is, minus the comps. I don't know. But it's definitely like funny math at times with restaurants, and it's just kind of something that you have to offer to be a full service type of spot. So it doesn't surprise me one way, but 11 restaurants, that's a lot to have if you're losing that kind of money too.
And as I've talked before, love primarily prime rib, Baja Miguel's. They have some great restaurants there. The buffet, the last time I was there, did not enjoy it, but I had in the past, so maybe I just had a bad day there. But there were some other interesting takeaways. They go into his slot concessions at the airport, things we've talked about on previous shows, so I won't go too deep into that. But you sort of get the picture of how this is run in a way that casinos are no longer run. And they talk about how everything's run through cash flow. There's no debt on the property, so if they want to renovate something, they just use cash from the property to do it. How they've had success over the years with their equestrian center, which has basically kept the rodeo here in town. Also, they have a dedicated bowling center just for tournaments, which I had heard that, but I always thought they were using their regular bowling alley. I don't know, it never clicked in my brain that they have a separate bowling space that's only for tournaments. It's not for public use. So, I mean, he's done all of this stuff. Of course, they have the timeshares across the street, which are 2,000 rooms. They have 2,000 rooms themselves. So it's about a mix of 50% locals, 50% tourists. Great property, but I highly recommend reading this, and it'll give you a little nostalgia for how Vegas used to be.
Yeah, last week I made the comment that Boyd was probably upset that they sold this with how well it's doing. But we've seen what Boyd does, and it wouldn't have been run this way, and it would have been worse. So it's a blessing in disguise that they sold it all that time ago. And it's interesting to see how successful they are. We talk about Caesars and the debt load they have, and now they're talking about using cash to finance these type of improvements and everything. And they haven't sold the land out from under themselves, which other casinos have had to do. just to like keep things going and keep growing, and it's interesting to see, and it goes to show that like providing value even at a cost to yourself does work, and it still works, and for whatever reason nobody else in Vegas wants to do it that way.
My wife worked at the Suncoast back in the day under Michael Gaughan Jr. Used to wait on his ex-wife, Michael Gaughan's ex-wife, at IHOP. Had some run-ins with this family, and yeah, everything has been great in the way that they treat people as far as I've been experienced with it, and just love this. So check this out, because there's a lot more nuance in this, and that's the reason we love the South Point. We don't have any relationship with them at all, but every time I go there, I'm just reminded like, oh, I miss this part of Las Vegas. What I also miss is water park, Mark. Wet and Wild on the Strip. I missed that. We talked on the last show. See, great transition. We talked on the last show about they should build an indoor water park. And I don't get this. We got several comments saying it's the desert. Why would they build a water park? Well, first off, we have 2 water parks that are built in the last 10 years. They're on opposite sides of the valley. They're not really for tourists, because they're not in tourist areas, but we do have water parks here. Plus, indoor water parks have a lot less evaporation and they're able to recycle the water a lot more. These are very common in tourist areas, Great Wolf Lodge, stuff like that. Am I off base and not understanding these comments, or are they right?
I love a couple of them, like it's in the desert. Okay. I mean, there's a ski hill in the desert in Dubai. Like, these things happen. There's water parks in deserts all over the place. And then another one, of course, it's in Atlantic City. It's right by the ocean. Well, you don't use ocean water to run your water park, so it doesn't really help there. I understand that, like, there's a struggle for water in Vegas, but like you said, there's already a couple water parks there. An indoor water park would be even more efficient, better for the city, and it's something that could be on the Strip, and it would be a big draw. So I am surprised that they didn't have it, and people are always going to have reasons to not agree with us. I'm okay with that.
Oh, me too. I just thought it was an interesting conversation. I mean, we have these giant pools. Think about Mandalay Bay's pool. That's a de facto water park, or MGM Grand's pool. I mean, they are using tons of water. I don't know what a water park is very different. And then, of course, we did have a water park on the Strip. Rest in peace, Wet and Wild. I grew up that place. Oh, man, I miss it.
Like you said, outdoor, you have more evaporation. These pools in Vegas are crazy. And I think an indoor water park would probably be more efficient, use less water, draw people in, get out of the heat, less sunburn, all that stuff. It'd be great. All net arena water park. Done.
What would also be great is no taxes on tips. I don't know. So we're not talking about a political thing. Both presidential candidates have now said that they are supporting no taxes on tips. So we figure we can talk about it without a political stance since both parties are supporting it. There's been a lot of chatter about this week. Some people saying it's bad because everybody else pays taxes on their income. Other people saying the person who's tipping has already paid tax on that income, so it's double taxed. What do you think? Is this good for Vegas? I'm sure a lot of people here are happy to hear that this has become a popular topic.
Yeah, I think, if you work in the industry, it's good. But I also see the other side, like, hey, I get taxed on all the money I earn. Why wouldn't they get taxed on that too? And this would just drive people to not pay, the higher rates hourly for those things. So I could see both sides of it. I don't really know where I fall on it so much. So many tips are not claimed anyway. So I don't know that they're going to get, lose a ton of revenue in terms of taxes. So we'll have to see how all that plays out. But I think it'd be good for Vegas. Maybe it would get people to get back into that industry, be in the service industry, knowing that they get a little bit more money that way. So that could be good. We've seen it's a struggle in some places, some areas, to hire help because it's just not worth it to them, but maybe this would make it more worth it to them.
So why is this Vegas related? Obviously a lot of tipped employees here, but both candidates announced this policy or this whole thing while doing campaign stops in Las Vegas. So clearly Las Vegas sort of the center of the tip conversation, and love to hear what you guys think, but remember, let's keep politics out of this because that's not the scope of this show. On to something a little bit more exciting. Earlier this year or last year, I forget exactly when, the Las Vegas Aviators temporarily turned into the Las Vegas Gamblers, and they launched a new logo and they sold all this merch. In fact, they sold out so quickly. And now Las Vegas Locally is reporting a rumor that they may permanently change the name to the Las Vegas Gamblers. There was some chatter that they might not be able to do that because the Gamblers name and associating with the league. I think we've moved past all of that in 2024. And with that logo, the name, I mean, they should be the Las Vegas Gamblers.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool. I mean, they sold out because it was a unique thing. I don't know that it would keep selling like hotcakes if it becomes the permanent thing. Maybe the Aviators would sell like hotcakes. They bring it out like once a year or whatever. Because that's a really cool logo too. So I like both of them, but I think Gamblers makes more sense to people that don't know the history of Vegas as well. And it kind of ties in there. And I think it would be a good change. Something we would have loved to see the the A's do something along those lines, but we'll get it here instead.
Yeah, the Aviators / Gamblers have the best logos, I think, of any of our teams here. Both of them, they're great and great merchandise and great team up there in Summerlin. But let's close with this. Another casino robbery, phishing scam. I don't know what you call this, but 3 a.m. you're in the casino cage. Some weird person calls you, says you need to deliver this money to North Las Vegas to a Mexican restaurant. And then you get some weird texts, and then you take the money out and you deliver it. And then on the way back, you sort of get this bad feeling in your stomach that maybe you did something bad. And that's what happened at Sam's Town last year. $750,000 taken from the cage. An employee sort of fell for this scam. And I think the reason they caught the person who scammed them was because they tried to do it again. And then they were able to track the person down, which is crazy. But what are the casinos going to do? We saw a similar thing with Circa. And I mean, this is nuts. Like, how do you not have stuff in place to make sure that this amount of money doesn't leave the casino?
I mean, hire people that think smart. I don't think, just say you can't take money out of the cage. Like, how easy is that? You don't leave with the money unless you're the person that's supposed to leave with the money. I don't know. It's kind of bizarre, but we see these with the scams, the IRS scams, where people get scammed on the phone and are told, hey, go get some Target gift cards and give me those. Like, come on, the IRS is never going to ask for Target or Amazon gift cards. They don't want payment in that way. So that should be your red light. But brains malfunction, don't work that way, or whatever, and it gets strange. So it's weird to say. I just want to know the name of the Mexican restaurant, because if it's open at 3 a.m., that might be the only place we can go eat in Vegas after 2 anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is just nutty. As you said, they need to have better policies, but sometimes when you get these things, your brain just doesn't function in thinking about things properly. And that's why people get scammed all of the time. So it's hard to, I guess, blame the employee, but also it's such a significant amount of money. And this is such an irregular activity that you would think they would do it. And I'm sure they have some responsibility. Casinos across Southern Nevada need to figure out a better strategy. You need to probably have 2 vice presidents or senior managers sign off on things. There's got to be ways. I mean, banks aren't allowing employees to just stroll out of the vault with hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's strange that casino cages are. I don't know. I mean, I'm just shocked by this amount of money. That's so much money.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. And, we talked about hackers and stuff earlier in the show. And I think that's the number one way they get in is humans at the places downloading something they shouldn't have downloaded from an email and stuff. So that's always the weakest link is your employees. So you need to train them properly, what to do, what not to do. You have to have your systems in place to work around them when they do the dumb stuff. And you have to make it foolproof somewhat. And this is a lot of money. It is bizarre that it's even possible to get that out there and nobody notices. Also, if you're a criminal, like, don't get extra greedy. You got a ton of money, you were scot-free. Go leave the country. Why are you going for it again? There's no way you spent all that money. Greed gets people caught. Usually you can get away with something once, maybe twice, but when you go in there, each time you're more risk.
Yeah, it's interesting. So let us know in the comments what you think about that. No taxes on tips, Guy Fieri, food prices in Las Vegas, hackers was Resource World out of line with DefCon? Hit us up in the comments. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in a couple days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Yeah, don't watch that TikTok video at work or in front of your kids.